You know, I it's not the commission. I've always said that, you know, if you find a great parent-teacher association, you have a great school, and it's an involvement in the community of that, in that school that makes for a great school. And if we are involved, our children are involved, our students are involved, it isn't a commission thing, it's a family thing. It's a personal commitment that we all make to be involved in our children's lives and involved in their school. And I must say at Bishop Moore, they had a fantastic parent association. Winter Park High School has the same thing. Those schools are good because we as citizens, we as residents, we as mothers and fathers are involved in our school. That's what's the foundation of a great school. It's not so much the money, it's not so much the location, it's the commitment to that school from the community that makes it good. And kudos to all of you to Winter Park, because we do have one of the best public school systems in the state, and I think in the nation, right here in Winter Park, and that's a tremendous asset for our city and for our children.
The structural reality, of course, as we all know, is that the Orange County school system does not report to the Winter Park City Commission. We have very little direct influence, if we have any direct influence at all. However, the City Commission should be, in my view, supporting parents who say they want the help of the city to encourage the Orange County School Board to make decisions in favor of our children. And there was a recent resolution, I'm not sure if it passed, I think it might have passed, I'm not sure if it did or not, but there was a recent resolution from some residents in the Lake Bell area seeking the support of the City Commission with the Orange County School Board, asking for their help to help relocate their children's public school. I think that's a good example for the city. That's about the limit of what we can practically do. The other things we can do is have relationships with our school board member, Joey Cadle, and other school board members, and be working behind the scenes as we can to influence and cajole. We just do not have any management responsibility for that.
Thank you for pointing out, excuse me, thank you for pointing out the reality of the situation, but we do a lot as a community. I hope that you will all come out the end of this month to restore the roar. The city of Winter Park, the Winter Park Health Foundation, Winter Park High School, we're all working to improve the Showalter Field. But the truth of the matter is our schools are a community responsibility. My children, 3 of them did graduate from the Winter Park High School IB program, and it served them very well. They all went on to great learning institutions. But our Winter Park schools have dropped from an A to a B. When we moved here from Washington, D.C., we would not have moved into a community with B-rated schools. So we all individually have a responsibility to try to do all we can to elevate our schools. And I think that needs to become a conscious, I know that we don't have any authority, but I do think that it impacts the economic sustainability of Winter Park and our quality of life. So I do believe that it would be a conversation worth having as a city. What can we do above and beyond to help our schools? From the Chamber of Commerce, from the Board of Realtors, because people don't move into communities with B-rated schools. So I think it's critical. Thank you.
Speaking of the Chamber, one of the things, Leadership Winter Park, they spend an entire day on education. And when I did Leadership Winter Park a few years ago, I'll never forget, on the bus, the first stop was Winter Park High School. And the band met us. I had tears in my eyes. Their band is phenomenal. And we spent half a day there, then we went to Berkshire. And we have amazing teachers, we have amazing principals, we have amazing programs. So they do shine. We do have wonderful teachers. I will say I'm excited. I live in the Audubon area, and they're doing a new K through 8 school. They have found that model works better. And they are delayed a year, but it will be coming in 2018 now. It's supposed to be 2017. But it's, again, we don't have the authority, but it's nice that they are looking and they are responding to the needs of the community, and they're changing and finding that, you know what, we have a better model, let's put that in our community, so I applaud them.
Great, thank you. We're wrapping up. I think one or two more questions in closing. This is a question from the audience, and Pete, you'll go first. It regards growth, sort of. That's the subject title. I don't know if it does necessarily, but would you ever propose or vote for any form of architectural control on single-family residences in Winter Park?
No.
Okay, we may have time for 3 more questions.
And I'd like to embellish on one.
Please.
I understand, I believe I understand the desire for many to provide architectural control over residential development. But I look, in my experience traveling literally the world, I look at Winter Park and I see its character and its heritage as being one of individual expression, not of collective expression. Our neighborhoods are entirely varied. We get different people doing different things. Some of those homes aesthetically don't please me. Others, many of them, frankly, do please me. I think the character and quality of our city is in large part defined by the individual interest of those who invest in our city to build their home for their family. I don't see any value long-term for the city, given the nature of all of our neighborhoods, of trying to control what our neighbors do with their property. I think the opposite is true, and I want to continue to encourage everyone to have their choice with regard to improvements to their own home.
Maybe. No,
Thank you, Commissioner.
my feeling about architectural excellence, and that's what we're talking about here, is that our codes provide entitlements. I have actually talked to a number of incredible architects in this community who have volunteered their time to come forward and help us put together a book of guidelines. And recommendations, samples, if you will, because not all architects are created equal. And we may give people guidance in the way of limitations, setback heights, but what we don't do is we don't give them a book of illustrations that would show them possibilities. And I think that's a very positive thing. That's different than a mandate that says you must. But what it does is it takes the excellence that the real professionals in this business have, and share it with those that may not have had that opportunity to have the same experience. And so I feel very good about that. I like the idea of being able to have illustrations for people that come to our city, so that we're doing more than simply telling them it has to be so tall and so close to the fence, but to give them some alternatives and ideas. Thank you.
I think if you drive around Winter Park, you see all different styles of homes. You see modern, you see Mediterranean, colonial. So it would be very difficult to implement that because you would be restricting somebody. You would be restricting someone's view, someone's want, someone's desire. So, I mean, in theory, it might sound nice, but in our community, if you look around and you look at how beautiful it is, it's so beautiful because of the different types of style homes. So that's mine.
Just take it.
Take it, over there. The nuance to that question is residential architectural guidelines, and I live in a 1955 ranch that I like to call Martin Marietta modern. At the time it was built, that was radical for the city. My goodness, ranch homes, we have those up north. I can't believe we're putting them here in Winter Park. And now it's part of the community, it's part of the fabric. And so from a residential standpoint, that diversity is part of our, I call it our eclectic aesthetic. I mean, it is is one of the character pieces of our city. And you do drive around different neighborhoods, and the fact is, we do have housing not only that's different, but also still is in some cases affordable for many different people around town. I mean, I moved here originally, and right now I couldn't afford to buy the house that I live in. And gee, that's a good thing, but for me now, but back then it was great to be able to move into a home that I could actually afford here in Winter Park. So that diversity of housing styles, that diversity we have in our population, I think feeds the character that we have. And so the short answer to that, Patrick, is no, I would not be in favor of architectural guidelines for residential development in Winter Park.
Okay, great. Last question, and it was sort of a theme through a couple of these, and I think it's pertinent to the business community concerning Sunrail. If there is not a dedicated source of funding for Sunrail in 5 years, will you let residents decide to pay or opt out? Oh, I'm sorry, Carolyn, I'm sorry.
You mean put it on the ballot, is that what you're asking? I have never given that any thought. It is my desire, certainly, that we have dedicated funding, because once we have invested into the Sunrail the way we have, it would be, I believe, a tragedy to walk away. So for me, I'm not sure. If I felt as though the community was in disagreement about that, then yes, I might. I'm not sure our community would be in disagreement about that. So for me, it would be a wait-and-see kind of attitude, because right now, I can't imagine that we would want to walk away from Sunrail, because it has been successful for us. So that's sort of where I'm at. It would depend if the community came to me and said, we don't want to continue on, but we've been very disciplined in putting aside money in our budget every year, so that by the time we got to the place where we had to play O&M, we would have already learned to do without that amount of funding out of our budget. So I really think we have done good planning in that area. And it would depend on the community, Patrick.
Thank you.
But it would not be something I would personally pursue.
Commissioner Deagle was actually the one that asked to set aside funds for Sunrail, and I met with Peter Moore, and we actually do that. So we set aside funds currently, he said, so we have that money. Thank you for the planning ahead. So we'll have that. In 2007 on the ballot, when we asked Winter Park residents if they wanted a stop in Winter Park, and if they were willing to use city funds to pay for the station, majority answer was yes on both of those. So the community wanted it before they even had it. Again, we're paying for it, we're saving that money, we'll have it when we need it, and we can always ask again if the community's in support, but all I'm hearing now is the community loves it, and they actually want to see more of it. Thank you.
It's just
What a cordial group we have.
we are flexible. We have planned well for this. We have planned for the day when a dedicated funding source might not be available. But I've got to believe that if a dedicated funding source doesn't develop, that Sunrail in itself is going to be in trouble. This is a regional question. Sunrail's been great we have the most popular stop on Sunrail. People ride Sunrail just to come to Winter Park, and I think all the merchants say the off-hour business, the whatnot, has increased. It's been a success for Winter Park. But for Sunrail to be a success for all the communities, it needs a dedicated funding source. And that's going to be a major question coming forth for the region. Because you think of Sunrail as like a tree without branches right now, unless links can tie into that, unless other modes of transportation can tie into that, Sunrail is not going to succeed in and of itself. So the big question is dedicated funding in a regional area. The specific question is, yes, if the residents came to us in 5 years and said, no to Sunrail, we're going to put it on the ballot, we can put it on the ballot. I think that's over and done with. The bigger question is we need to make sure Sunrail succeeds, and to do that, it's going to need to have a regional funding source in the future.
Yes. The answer is exactly as the other three have mentioned. I would simply point out that we do have a cap on our participation. I believe it's $375,000 a year. it might be adjusted for inflation or ridership at some point. I forget the details in the contract. But it's a very reasonable cap for a city of our size, so that should the needed regional funding not come to fruition, the city has planned well, and the burden will be immaterial for the city to continue to participate. And I don't believe it will be an issue. And I believe the issue comes up in 2021, where you will likely have some other commissioners to talk to about it.
Okay, that's the end of the questions, and we're going to just move right to the closing statements. We ask that you keep that to 60 seconds, please. And I believe, Lambrini, you're the first to close.
So my mantra is leave things better than you find them. And I've done that on Welborn, and I've done that with my business, with our home, with my daughter, with everything that I do. And I have the support of 5 former mayors, and I love the support of all of you. I'm invested in this community, I'm hardworking, I'm very practical, I collaborate, and I'd love to be your next commissioner. Thank you.
I know, which, this way, here?
I started,
So you go this way?
Or
Reverse.
this way?
Okay, just
Reverse?
say the first one.
Carolyn.
Thank you. Okay, we got it.
I get to close.
You're doing so well.
It's been an honor. It's been an honor. I have the right experience, beyond any shadow of a doubt. I understand the city. I understand cities in Florida. And I understand the needs of the future. I understand their comprehensive plan. My husband and I have no investments here outside our personal home. We've raised 3 of our 5 children in this community. I am open, I am transparent, I am accessible. I have no agenda other than to serve as your city commissioner. I will listen to you, I will research the facts, and I will always vote independently. There have been recently some mailers that have gone out that bring into question my integrity and some of my decisions. What I would say to you is that if you have any question ever about anything I have done, please call me. It was an absolute misrepresentation of the facts. Thank you.
60 seconds is a short time to make it close, but I'll give it my best shot. When I started, I said there's a better way to govern in Winter Park, and I believe there is. I think you can tell that Tom and I have respect for each other. He's a nice guy, but my job, competing for his seat, is to distinguish myself. One of the concerns that has driven me to run is that I think our city commission, and Tom specifically, has engaged in regulatory overreach on our homes, on our lives. This is a city where we brought up our family without an oppressive government. And I want to, point out some specific votes Tom made that I have concerns with. He voted for dog park fees. He voted to keep onerous fines on our property owners when we want to remove a tree to improve our property. And he voted to lower the voting threshold to form historic districts that will only pit neighbor against neighbor. I think there's a better way to govern in Winter Park, and it's respecting you. Thanks very much.
It's been said that it takes courage to stand up to your adversaries, but it takes more courage to stand up to your friends. Over the past 6 years in office, I've had to do that. It's no secret that I've been a swing vote on many important issues. And that's because I don't represent any one idea, any one group, or any one ideology. I've represented all the citizens of Winter Park. Because of that, I've developed trust within the city. And I'm probably the one commissioner that when there's an important issue, I've been invited to both sides of the table to hear the aspects of both sides of a problem, to make a proper decision, make a difficult decision, and make a decision in favor of the citizens of Winter Park. And I want to keep doing that. I want to keep working for you and all the citizens. And so as my sign says, I'd like you to keep time on March 15th. Thank you all for being here today.